I'm originally from here in Crooksville. This is my hometown. I grew up here on behind the Big Apple. There used to be a house up there on top of the hill. In fact, I grew up right beside Paul Pride's house. Didn't know that. He's a colonel of the highway patrol. He's from up there too. We lived up behind the Big Apple. And that's just when I was a little guy when Mom brought me home. But I remember growing up here on the North Street, up here in the neighborhood up here. Grew up right across from Chris Weiss and them boys there, and Spencer kids there, and Schillings. All of us grew up in that neighborhood right there. We moved down here to McKeever Street. Grew up down here on the McKeever, corner of McKeever, and what is that? It's not Buckeye that comes across there, is it? Right down on the corner. Anyway, it's right there on McKeever Street.
I forget Buckeye's the center road, right?
Is it the center one?
I think so.
Anyway.
You got China, Buckeye, then I'm drawing a blank. I've been living up 20-some years. Yeah. Anyway.
I grew up right there.
Okay.
And went to school at the old North School, which is now what, a senior citizen type complex.
Yeah.
I went to school there. We moved out there over to Philo. Went to Philo school for probably 5-6 years. Ended up down in Noble County 1 year. Ended up moving back up here to here off Maysville Pike, and I ended up graduating from Maysville School. Now, why so many moves? Well, it wasn't my idea. It was Mom and Dad's. You know?
Yeah.
Dad had to go where the work was, so we went there and graduated from Maysville. I ended up going to Muskingum Area Technical College. Got a 2-year degree in law enforcement there. During that time, I was in high school. In the 9th grade, we had a career day, and I remember the deputy sheriff that came in and talked to us was Ted Holscher. And he must have been 8'10" because he was a huge man. He was tall.
Wow.
And when a highway patrolman came in and talked to us, and I knew right then what I wanted to do. That's the avenue I wanted to go. From there on, I worked my butt off to do anything I could to train or educate myself for a job in law enforcement. I saved up enough money to put myself through college for a year and a half. I worked in Mattingly Food over there in the freezers for the first year of that school. Worked out in Dura there in South Zanesville, working at a steel mill down there, saving up my money. So I worked pretty hard to put myself through school. The last quarter of my 2-year degree was the only quarter I got any help or funding, and there was a grant that came available then to fund that. From there, I graduated, had my good old diploma there and everything, but during that time period is when I went through the Ohio Peace Officer Basic Academy, because I had a job then up here at the Good Samaritan Hospital as a security guard. Sheriff Jack Pennybaker gave me my first commission in 1973 in Muskingum County.
Okay.
That's my footprint of starting law enforcement. It was right there in 1973. Went through the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy, got out of there, then I went in the Army, couldn't find a job. I signed up to be an MP. I scored high enough on my testing to qualify to be a military policeman. I went through basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, down to Fort Gordon, Georgia. Came home for a short period, got in a plane and flew to Hawaii. That's where my order sent me, to work in a place called Fort Shafter, Hawaii. From there, I went down to Fort DeRussy, Hawaii, and I worked there for 2 years and 8 months as a military policeman. So when I got out of there, my plan was, let's reach out and see who's hired. First place I sent one to was Perry County Sheriff's Office. First place that called me for a job interview was Perry County Sheriff's Office.
Wow.
First job I accepted back home was Perry County Sheriff's Office. I started there in 78, May it was. Worked there for 3 years or better. Got into investigations at one point. And by that time, I had a wife and I had a little daughter on the way. I had a little daughter, and insurance became an issue. Money became an issue. So I transferred over to the city police, took a cut in pay to go to New Lex, but I still brought more money home because of the benefit they provided. So, long story short, you read my bio. I spent a year or so there as a patrolman. I got promoted to police chief in 1982. That was probably my first taste, really, at managing people, learning what it took to make a police agency work, to be responsible for them. And at the same time I was in the military, I had, at that time, had been promoted to an E5 sergeant position in the National Guard, because I come off active duty and went in the National Guard, straight in that unit at New Lex. And at that point, I had got promoted to a staff sergeant, E6, and then I had another responsibility supervising my crews. So anyway, I've spent probably from 1982, I'm guessing, probably supervising either soldiers or police officers throughout my entire career for up to 2013 when I retired from the Army National Guard. So I had at one time 3 jobs. I worked pretty regular. I was a teacher at Zane State College in there in the police academy, and I was a soldier with the Ohio Army National Guard, and I was either the police chief or the sheriff. I worked 3 jobs from probably 1982 to 2009 when I retired from teaching. So law enforcement's all I know. That's all I know. I focused my education, my training, all in trying to be the best sheriff I can be for Perry County. My goal is to serve this county as long as they'll have me as county sheriff.
You summed through that pretty quickly. I appreciate that. A few things I was curious about is, do you have siblings?
Yeah.
Are you the oldest?
I have a brother. Russell Glenn.
Who's the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
He's younger than I am. He lives in California. When he went in the Air Force, he got stationed out in California and met his wife out there, and they got married out there. They have 4 kids.
Okay.
I have 2 children, a son and a daughter, and I have 3 grandsons from 24 down to 13 and 10.
Ooh.
And those 2 are in Florida, the youngest.
Oh, okay. Here's one I would find interesting. Who was William Barker as a teenager in high school? Sports, hobbies. Who was you?
I was the guy that probably kept his mouth shut about things. I wasn't too vocal or anything like that. I played football my senior year of high school there.
Only your senior year?
Only my senior year. Yeah.
Seems like an odd move at the senior year. What's wrong with you?
I played the band before that,
Oh, did you? Okay.
And I decided I had enough of that. And that was like I forced onto that deal. But anyway, I told Mom and Dad, so I'm going to play football this year. I tried that earlier in my life when I was at school down in Philo and played junior high football down there. I had to walk home every night, carry my stuff, and that got old. But I did it, and then I thought, well, I want to try that my senior year of school. But I probably spent more time then and running around with a couple of guys. I just got into deer hunting, and I just thoroughly loved that. I loved the deer hunt. In fact, I was out last night sitting in my stand. I like the turkey hunt. I got a 0-turn lawnmower that I dearly love. I tore it up here last week, so it's still in the shop.
Oh.
Anyway, I like to cut my grass, take care of my property out there, and then I've got a 20-year-old motorcycle I like to get on every now and then and ride. So, But in high school, now I had an old 1950 Ford, if you can imagine what that looked like, that my dad brought me out of West Virginia. I did the body repair on that, restored that. Dad took the engine out. We sent it off, got it rebuilt. That was the car I plunked around in high school with. Everybody wanted to know what that had in it. And I told them it had a flathead V8 in it.
Oh, Lord.
And they didn't know what that was. So I had to pop the hood and show them. You know what a flathead V8 doesn't have?
No.
Doesn't have overhead valves.
That's right. I should have known that. Yes.
A Chevalier would have known that.
Yeah. I'm failing on my Chevalier hood.
That's right. But high school now, that's pretty calm, laid back. I only got a couple fights there, and that was it.
What instrument did you play in band?
Trombone. I was a trombone fan. Yeah.
Huh. How long were you in band for?
Not many people know that, so if you can edit that
out. How long were you in band for?
Oh, I don't know. High school, probably. I had 3 or 4 years in there, probably.
Huh.
Yeah, that's right. About 3 years. Yeah.
I think you covered everything in a very short period of time, which is awesome. Because I don't feel right like saying, "Hey, tell me about your history." It's such a vague, like, where do I start at? You know what I mean? So that's why I listed 1,000 questions just to get into your history.
Yeah. My parents were from down here. My mom grew up in this area here. She was a Robinson, and there's still some of those family members still living down here. But my dad, he grew up over back of Cannellville up on Virginia Ridge Road. When I went to high school, when I was in grade school. The reason we moved from here and went over there, my dad's father was ill with silicosis. Grandpa Cleo Barker. We bought a farm, Dad did, right next door to their property. Had joined us, a little 55-acre farm, and we moved over there in an old house. It had a log foundation on it, and we built up on top, and we had like 4 rooms in it. We never had running water in there for years.
Yeah.
We never did have running hot water in there for years. So it was kind of a country style living. We took care of the garden as much as we could, raised a few pigs over there and some chickens, but I really enjoyed that country life, living growing up there. And I credit my parents for instilling in me those values there of, we didn't have a lot. We didn't have a lot of food sometimes. We got by. Dad did the best he could, driving, hauling coal, cutting logs, cutting timber and stuff. Mom, she worked too. And they raised me and my brother up with not having a lot in our family. But things got better for my younger brother. My brother, whenever he got a little older and I had moved on, was going to the Army, he was able to go to college. He was the first one to get a 4-year degree in our family. I've never not gotten that yet.
Yeah, you say that what you're still going to.
Well, I talked to my wife the other day about that.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I told her, I said, I think I'd like to go back to school again. And she goes, well, what would you be interested in doing? And I said, well, probably something, in the public safety sector here. Something, kind of what I'm doing. She goes, no. If you go back to school, you're going to learn how to cook. So, that should tell you who does the cooking in my family. My wife's my inspiration. She pushes me. She takes care of a developmentally disabled child here in Crooksville.
Okay.
And home care. But back on my parents, they're both deceased. They're both gone now. Lost Mom this spring. In April. But
when did your dad pass?
Dad passed away in 2011. It was. Yeah, he's been gone now for a while. 12, 13 years probably. They're both married up here at Rose Farm up here.
Huh. One of the things you didn't talk about was I was interested in, if I could find the daggone thing. There, is that it? National Guard. Yeah. You were a member from 79 to 2013. I had no idea. What did you do for the Guard?
Well, several different things. Several different things there. I started out, like I said earlier, there in New Lexington, and I started out as a crewman on the M42 Duster, which is an old tracked vehicle with 2 pom-pom guns, for lack of better words. If you watch any of those old World War II movies or Pearl Harbor, where you see them battleships and them guns going back and forth.
Okay.
Well, those guns were mounted on a tracked vehicle, and they used them in Vietnam. They were used in Korean War. So they were 1942 models, I think they were, the ones we were on. They weighed 25 tons, and they'd fire about 240 rounds a minute, and they'd only ford about 24 inches of water. So you had to just about know what you're doing there. So I had some good squad leaders, but I was able to get promoted to a gunner on that crew, and then eventually became a squad leader in that crew. They did away with those guns right at the invasion into Kuwait, when the first soldiers went over to run Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait and back to where he belonged in Iraq or Iran. Iraq, I guess it was. Yeah. Anyway, wherever they ran him out to, they did away with that unit here, and we weren't able to go. They sent those guns over to the Saudis, and they used them over there. We were transitioning then. We transitioned to the Hawk missile system. So then I had to get reclassified in my job duties as an air defense crew member on an M42 Duster to a Hawk. And I chose to go into one division of that called Stinger missiles, which is a shoulder-fired missile that you launch from the ground and shoot aircraft out of the air. And I became trained in one of those. There's things about that of course, are secret that I can't share with you. But anyway, the basic duties we had there was to knock aircraft down. From there, I got moved over to becoming a Hawk uprange crew member, which put me in the supervision role again in the military, like I told you. And I had millions of dollars worth of equipment there that I was responsible for, and probably 20 to 25 soldiers in that uprange Hawk missile system that ran generators, that run radars, that ran a PCP, and other equipments that it took to make this missile launch in the air to knock down an aircraft. I spent probably 16 or 17 years there at that rank E6. I had applied once for an E7 job, and they chose someone other than me. And I was down at the county fair one day, and Colonel Young, who later became a General Young, come up and asked me what I was going to do with my career. He said, "Would you be interested in teaching?" I said, "Teaching?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I'm a commander of a unit up in Columbus, and we'd like to take you up there and have you teach soldiers, different skill level, different classes."
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'd kind of like to do that. It wasn't a couple of weeks later, I had orders transfer me from the Connellsville unit up to that unit up there in Columbus. It was the 145th Regiment of the RTI, which is a regional training institute. I spent probably a year, maybe 2 years there, teaching different classes, instructor training classes or small group leader classes, classes that were teaching soldiers basic skills to promote them to become instructors in different MOSs. That's military occupational specialty, MOS.
Okay.
So I trained those guys to do that. I ran those courses. Then I got a job. Then I got promoted. I got promoted to E7, staff or sergeant first class. Then that sergeant major put me in charge of managing those schools. Oh my, here we go again. Back in this management field. That was probably the first really, really good start that I had where I was now being held accountable. And not that I hadn't before, but that job was a lot different because now I'm responsible for taking care of the soldiers' basic needs. Their housing, their food, and everything like that. Their classroom, their instructors, their student records, and instructor records, and it was pretty time consuming. I spent a lot of time working there with the guards. I'd go up a lot of times on Thursday or Friday, and it's been Saturday or Sunday there. And they thought nothing give me orders and ship me out to Fort Bliss, Texas, or San Antonio, Texas, or up into Michigan, or up into Wisconsin. So that was a challenge. Then I got promoted again. I got promoted to E8. They made me a master sergeant. And this time, I did such a great job back there, they put me over to combat arms section. Well, by that time, now things had kicked up over in the Mideast there. The war had kicked off pretty good over there. And suddenly there was a change in theater over there with some of the occupational skills that some of the soldiers over there had. Like we trained field artillery guys there at the academy. They still use field artillery. We trained MPs. People had to transition from one job to another to become MPs. We had to do engineer courses. I then got the duties then of working directly under a sergeant major then to manage and operate these schools. So my job there during the time period through the war when I was still in there was to train the guys and get them ready to ship over there.
Right.
Some of them didn't come back. Some of them got injured over there. Some of them I became pretty good friends with. So anyway, long story short, my first sergeant that was there, he was going on another deployment. He had signed up to go back over again. Well, guess who they grabbed to backfill him? So I spent, I don't know, probably close to 2 years just backfilling him. And finally, I got promoted to first sergeant, which meant I got my diamond and was officially promoted to the rank of first sergeant with that unit. Then I was really in charge. Yeah. Really responsible for everybody in that unit up there. So
was that overwhelming at all, or?
No, it's challenging.
It's challenging.
It's a challenge. It's all a challenge to me. It's not overwhelming. No, I want to learn this job. I'd been doing it for the first couple of years, but officially being put in that position where then I want to come to you and look for the answers.
Right.
And I had a great time there, simply because I had great leadership. I had great guys to work with. We got the cream of the crop at that unit up there because we picked people that we knew were good soldiers, that were going to be good instructors, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because during the time period I was there, several times we achieved what's called an accreditation of excellence in our schools that we run, which meant that the proponent school, let's say MPs, for example, they're out of Fort, I can't think of the name of it. It'll come to me here in a minute. It's out west there. Anyway, that proponent that owns that mission in the military, that's called a proponent school. They come and they do an audit on your class. They come and sit in your classroom and watch your instructors. They come and watch how your records are being maintained.
Uh-huh.
And when I became responsible for that right there, that's when I learned to cross T's, dot I's, check everything 2 or 3 times. My guys get so mad at me and I hand them back something. Hey, this isn't right here. Review this. So I had a great leadership there that worked really hard with me to help me through that process. Same when I became first sergeant. I had a commander, a company commander there right there with me all the time. I wasn't her boss or his boss,
Right.
but still we worked together as a team. And it's all a matter of teamwork. That's why it's important to me at my office. I have a great staff up there. I have guys that do a very good job with what we have. They try hard. They're not afraid to ask me questions. They're not afraid to answer questions. I can't compliment my support staff. I've got a great administrative clerk there. Michaela's been with me for years. I got a great civil staff. Sandy, she's been there, manages all the property sales and forfeitures and stuff and transport stuff for the sheriff's office. Got Al Dunn that does our CCW permits, Amanda Dannison that does our civil record stuff there, Dana Wilson that manages my evidence rooms. I got a good staff there. That office probably is running better now than I've ever seen that, just looking at it from my eyes. And of course, I'm probably prejudiced, but I think we have a good representation there for Perry County, and the citizens out here need to be proud of that. And like I've said earlier, if they have questions about cases, they need to call me. My phone number is 740-252-7999. It's right here. I carry that phone all the time with me. The county pays for that. I get phone calls on that all the time. That's the best way to contact me. My home number, no, it wakes my wife up. So
she'll show up at your house and put your handcuffs.
and one more time, I actually took an ad out once publicizing that phone number, making it available for the public to reach me.
Yeah.
So again, it's 740-252-7999, and call me anytime.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sitting with me. You've answered all my questions, and you've zipped through all the things that would have extended this thing for another hour, I'm sure of it. So I appreciate that. So if I have any further questions, I'll be in contact with you.
You got my number.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.